there folks, welcome you all to yet another vlog of mine. It has been a few weeks since the last one. The last one we did, well in fact it might even be a month people, or thereabouts, because the last one we did was the PlayStation Showcase, and it's only right, proper and fair people that we give Xbox the same love, right? So here we are, I think it's maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, at the Xbox Showcase, and they've also had an Xbox Extended Showcase. Although, yeah, they do call it a showcase, but it's like an extended version. So what they tend to do is there tends not to be anything new announced in the extended one. It's more of a deep dive into all the stuff that they did in the actual showcase, and it's superb. It's really, really good. I like the way Microsoft do it. So we're going to get into all of that good stuff, people. Before we go any further, can I just say this? It is 27.5 degrees, people, in my living room. It's 4:30 in the afternoon, and I don't know if you can see that, but it's 27.5 degrees in this room, which is the highest I've seen it all year, and which is surprising because it's not the hottest day that it's been outside all year. But anyway, it is super hot. I've just seen a massive spider crawling up the wall next to me. Oh. I do everything, people, apart from spiders. Anyway, I'll let him just do his thing. It might be a her. I can't tell from here. He's having it. He's not harming me. I won't harm him. But I tell you, if I see it after this vlog, it will be getting done for. Christ. Anyway, there you go. Real life events, people, on camera. I won't pan it around so you can see it, because that will cause all kinds of chaos, people. So yeah, it's super hot in here. So I had to go with as always, people, before I get going on anything, I will try and put timestamps below. I will try and avoid, for those people that don't want to hear me spraff on about a little update on the channel or whatever, what have you, and they just want to get right to the good stuff, I will try and remember to put all of the timestamps below, and you can just skip forward and get to the bit you want to see, people. But before we get going, like we always do in these little vlogs of mine, people, I just kind of spraff on a little bit about channel life and what have you. So anyway, super hot. I had to go with the lesser of two evils at the moment. I've got a little fan in this living room, one of those little spinny ones that just goes side to side, and I wasn't sure whether it would have a constant humming effect on the microphone, because when I record like this, because the microphone's not up close to me, this Rode microphone's down here just at high sensitivity, so that I can speak without the microphone being up here. And with that high sensitivity comes great responsibility. No, that's a different thing, Steve. For that high sensitivity comes greater dangers, people, of picking up things you don't want to hear. Excuse me. And the little fan has that sort, as fans do, it will give off a constant noise as it spins round. Just a blowing noise, but you know, it is what it is. So I decided I wasn't going to have the fan on, but because it's so hot in here, I've got the back, so I've opened the back door, which I wasn't going to do. So where I'm sitting is the living room, right, and completely opposite to me is the kitchen, sort of, well, it's one big room, but it's the kitchen to the left, a little chill out area to the right, and in between that is the garden door, which goes out into the garden. And you might hear this fucking loudest bird I've ever heard in my life, and I'm talking about the feathered variety, people. I've got this bird that's coming into the garden. I don't know what it is, but it is the loudest chirping bird, and it just goes, and it's the same time every night. It pitches up for food and what have you, and it's just like all the other birds are fine. They just chirp away at a nice little level, but this thing, feck me, it's loud. I mean, if you hear it on this recording, then I apologise. And you might get a faint chirping in the microphone. If you do, then I apologise. But it was the lesser of two evils. I'd rather have the bird just chirping sometimes than the fan having an effect on the entire recording, if you know what I mean. So it was the lesser of two evils. So the back door is open, so that chirping is sort of a bit more prominent. But the fan's off. But the other thing is, it was already 27.5 degrees before I want to record, right? And in order to get any kind of decent light on me in this room, because I've got light behind me, and I've got light coming through from there, this light tends to dominate, which means I have to turn on the big lights in the living room, and I have to turn on a massive halogen lamp over here as well, which kind of brightens up the whole room. And even at that, I'm still a little bit dull on the face. I might need to try and brighten it up with the editor, but it might be okay. So there you are. So I've gone with the lesser of two evils, people. I've gone with the loud fecking bird rather than the fan for the entire duration. Can I say this? before I say no more, and I think I've said that already, but I'm going to say this thing. Flagging's up to you all, people. Yeah, by the way, it's a flagging up glass. Can we see it? Flagging's up to you all. This is the glass. For anyone who's joined the channel recently, this glass was brought to me from a tankard. Is it a tankard or a flagon? It's a flagon of ale, people. We know that. It's Flagons Up Friday. It is actually Flagons Up Friday. Did we do it on a Saturday last time? I can't remember the last time we did an actual Flagons Up Friday. So Flagons Up Friday to you all. And this glass does say on it, Flagons Up. Which was bought for me by Aaron Brew, my boy, for my 50th. Yeah, it was for my 50th. Oh, God, my 50th. I'm now 52, people. What the hell? Level 52. Hey? I'm glad I'm not in a game where the level cap was 50. That would have been depressing, wouldn't it? I'm going to have a sip of this, people. Oh, my God, it's hot. So with all the extra lights and everything, it is the back door, something has to give. So I've got all the windows open up. Well, not all of them. I try and make a draft, a tunnel. So I have one window open at that side and a window open at this side, and that hopefully gets a breeze coming through, which it does when I'm working upstairs in my day job at my desk. It does have a nice little breeze coming through most of the time, but I'm not feeling much of an effect of it at the moment, but a little bit. So it isn't heating up anymore. Oh, it is. It's just went to 28. I must be a customizing because I'm a beer, people. It has literally just turned to 28, as I just said. It's not heating up anymore. So that just goes to show you that what effect these lights are having on the room. I guess not to mention that my laptop's now on and that's pummeling out some heat. People, oh my lord. Anyway, should we? That's enough about the heat. I'm also sitting in my shorts, people. Look, sitting in my shorts, eh? And my Adidas trainers on. There you go. There's a little jig for you. You don't get that on every channel, eh? People flashing their legs and the Adidas trainers at you, and a little jig. God, I've got myself all out of bloody centrepiece now. Right, find the bit that says centre. The centre button, Stephen. So, what's been going on? On the channel. Oh, can I say this, actually? Just a massive thank you to everybody that messaged well wishes to me. I did explain in the last vlog that I hadn't been doing too well. I was in hospital, I had to have an op and all sorts of stuff going on. So thank you for all the well wishes. I've been healing up really well. I'm now back doing my running. That's all back. I'm doing 3 10k. Well, actually, usually it's 2 10ks and a 16k at the weekend. So that's all happening again. And I've actually been, I put on a bit of weight. I mean, you guys always tell me I don't have much weight on me anyway, but I'd got myself down to 11.9. And through a process of being on holiday for a week and other such things, I managed to put on a little bit. So I've now dropped. I went up to a 12.3, and this week I've been on 1,000 calories a day, that's quite hard work when you go running 2 10ks in the middle of the week and a 16k at the weekend as well. The 16k tends not to be so bad because that tends to happen on a cheat day or after a cheat day. So there's a bit more calories in your system, but when you're doing 2 10ks in the week and you've only had 1,000 calories in a day eating, it becomes quite hard work. Anyway, I've done quite well and I've dropped back down to, just in the space of 4 days, I've dropped from 12.3 to 11.12. So that's 5 pounds in 4 days based just doing that 1,000 calories a day. So it shows you how much you can achieve if you really go for it. So yeah, super happy with that. So I'm having myself a little cheat night. I'm off on holiday next week, people, and the weather is meant to turn a bit cloudier. So thank you to everyone that left me messages about getting better, and I am well on the road to recovery. I feel like I'm 99% fine now, and it's only sort of, although I haven't, it's basically only every now and then I just get like a little twinge, or if I've been sat down all day, it can get a bit uncomfortable, working at my desk or whatever. So we're about 99% there, so I'm healing up really well. So thank you very much for all the love and messages you've sent my way. Much appreciated, people. Boosh, fist bump. Yes, so I'm off next week, people. Holiday. That's the video copyrighted, I think you'll find. So yeah, I'm looking forward to actually getting some gaming done. I've been giving you a Diablo a day pretty much for the last 2 weeks-ish. I think we're on episode 15 now. I have the episode you got today of the Let's Play part 15 is the last part that I've recorded. And you'll get this video hopefully tonight, because I try and get it up at the same time that I record it. It just depends. There's a lot of footage I want to smelt in with what I'm about to talk about. So we're going to get on with it really quick actually in a minute. Keep this to a sort of 10-minute intro. So I'm on holiday next week, and I'm hoping the weather's meant to go a bit cloudier and a little bit cooler, back down to 21 degrees and that sort of thing. So it's going to be much more comfortable to do some gaming. Most of this week, I've only done one little gaming session where I recorded part 14 and 15. I think it was Monday or possibly Tuesday. But it's the only day that I sat and recorded anything. It's just been so hot. All I've been doing is finishing my work, doing me dinner, and then lying in the garden while the sun, so just sunbathing in the garden. And that's been it really. I haven't done anything to do with gaming. And then when it cooled down a bit, just come in and watch a bit of TV. So I'm hoping, I've got this week off, going to batter back into Diablo 4, get that Let's Play going again. So in your world, in theory, you're probably, because I won't game tomorrow, so you're probably going to be looking at, I'll maybe get some recording done on Sunday, might get one up for Sunday night, but if not, then you'll get more Diablo from Monday onwards, and I'll crack into more of it. Thank you to everyone that's been leaving comments and tips and tricks on all the Diablo 4 stuff, the Let's Plays I've been doing. Every single comment has been super helpful. Little tips and tricks as to what to do, things that I've missed, which I always do, people. I always miss stuff. Anyone that follows the channel knows that. But all of the tips and tricks that are left in the comments also helps the community of people that follow the channel as well. So it's just all super useful stuff, and it's fantastic. I'll also say this, some of the super helpful messages that have been left up, I didn't respond to them straight away, and the reason for that is because I tend to try and hit a thumbs up on them, and I'll respond to them a bit later on, because I like having them, when I respond to them, they kind of disappear from the list, and I have to go filtering it out to find them again. So instead of replying straight away, I tend to thumbs them up and keep them there until I record the part where I mention them, and then at some point later on I'll respond and say thanks very much for the tip. So if you're wondering why there's a big delay, that's why. That's the only reason. So it is mega appreciated to keep those comments coming. And that's the plan for the channel for the upcoming week, people. It's going to be more Diablo. I'm on holiday, and hopefully I'll get loads recorded. I don't think it is going to be Final Fantasy 16 launch week, and I've pretty much decided I'm not going to bother with Final Fantasy on day one. Not because there's anything wrong with it. It looks superb, but I've got Diablo. I'm only 15 episodes in, and it's massive. So I've got loads to do on Diablo, which is pretty much all I've been playing. And I've still not finished God of War Ragnarok, which looks like it's still got loads to go as well. So I just don't see the point. I don't know when I would play Final Fantasy 16. So if I get Final Fantasy 16, you can bet your bottom dollar that Diablo 4 recordings stop, and I stop playing it. And I don't really want to, because I am enjoying it. I will say this, though. I am taking a little bit of adjusting to Diablo 4. I mean, there are bits where I love it, and then there are bits where I just feel like, wow, this feels like a bit of a grind already. So I've tried to just stick to the campaign stories and stuff. I've also felt like there's not been a huge amount of variety in area yet. We've gone from snow to rain, really. It's been the only thing. So, and I mean, it is a fantastic game, don't get me wrong. But I just feel like it's been I'm not sure how the open world is working out for me yet, and I'm still not sure about the always online thing. I feel like I would prefer it if there was an offline mode you could just sit and play on. I don't see why they can't give us an offline mode. It looks like it's perfectly capable of giving us it. So anyway, but I have in the main. But I mean, it's no, it is like for me at the moment, probably a 9 out of 10, just because I've got a couple of small things niggling at me because of that. So when I mention something that's annoying me, it is tiny. I mean, it's only a little thing. But in the main part, I've been loving it. I mean, I don't know, and probably I don't want you to tell me, but from everything I'm hearing, it says everything really starts at level 50. So but I don't remember having the same gripes with Diablo 3. Diablo 3 seemed to be a lot tighter. It seemed to keep you in those snug areas that you could just, you just unshadow the map, do all the little sellers and stuff in that area, and then move on to the next area. I just felt like I was constantly engaged. And I've also noticed that there doesn't seem to be anywhere near as much reading material that there used to be. Like in Diablo 3, it used to be every other thing I clicked on, you'd get someone reading out a bit of story, a bit of a diary, a bit of a, and it kept you engaged in the world all the time. And I've not found that with Diablo 4. There is the odd one here and there, but I've not found anywhere near as many as I used to find. And Path of Exile's got loads of them as well. Used to find loads in there. So I don't know, maybe they'll get more and more as you go in. But I think I'm into Act 2 now. And the boss fights have been great. I've really enjoyed those. Apart from one, which I've never managed to beat, but I think I just took it on far too early. Anyway, I said I was going to keep that to a 10-minute intro, and we're 20 minutes in nearly. So, should we crack in, people? Should we crack right in and get busy with the Xbox Showcase stuffs, people? So these are my... I guess I'm being a little bit more in-depth with this, because I think I've jotted down... I think I didn't jot down any of the sort of more indie-type stuff. And I'm really only going to focus on the bigger stuff that was mentioned and shown off in the showcase. And it is kind of in order. I think a couple of bits I kind of forgot to shove them down, and I might have slotted them in where I thought they were. So if it's not quite in order, then do forgive it. But I think it is pretty much in order, because I do tend to write it as I'm watching it. Gonna have a sip of this before we get going, and let's do it, people. Flagons up to you all. Cheers. I'd share it if I could, people. Or would I? Eh? That is ice, ice, cold. Ice, ice, baby. Well, it is actually. I'm surprised it is as cold as it is, considering the temperature in here. So here we go, people. First up was Fable. And this is the first kind of proper look we've got at Fable. The only trailer we've ever had for Fable before was... it was kind of following this fairy flying through the forest, and it was just sort of that vibe of Fable that you got with it flying through the forest and the world. And then at the end, it's sort of funny piece where it got ate by a frog and stuff, and it was it was a teaser more than it was anything else. It wasn't really telling you anything more about what the world would be like, or anything about characters, or anything about nothing. There was no substance to it. It was just Fable's coming, just reminding you. This one, however, much as there wasn't a huge amount of gameplay, it was all in-engine footage. And Microsoft said that even things that were story-based were running from not just CGI blah, it was all in-game footage. So even if you think you just saw a trailer of story, it was still story that was shown out in-game engine, not CGI. So that's pretty impressive, and I was quite impressed with it. There were bits of it, however, that I thought, yeah, you could maybe have shown us a bit of gameplay, but if they're not ready, they're not ready. So... But with Fable, first off, I was really surprised to see Richard Aduade, probably destroyed his last name there, but Richard Aduade, who was in the IT crowd. And I love him. I mean, his humour has always connected with me anyway. And he is... I mean, his persona when he's in front of cameras and stuff is kind of like that character anyway. And his sense of humour kind of comes across. It's quite an intelligent sense of humour he's got, and he's really, really good. He pops up in so many things in the UK. But I love the fact that he's been included in this game. And it's the first thing you see is him in his face, talking into the camera, talking a little bit about heroes, and we've all seen them and all that sort of stuff. And as he's talking, it then sort of slides to this other female character, sort of swashbuckling, doing different things, and there's all sorts of sort of things that point to adult humour as well, and adult things going on, which is great, because Fable was never a kids game. So really, really delighted with the tone that they've taken with it. And then sort of toward the end, and again, I'll try and put up as much footage if I can of all the things I'm talking about. She kind of, you get the whole Jack and the Beanstalk thing happens at the end, and you see her standing at a door, and it turns out that he's actually a giant and she's like a little person like this, and the size difference is proper giant against proper little person. Like he's like the size of me and she's like this big because he grabs her like that. So I was really, really impressed with it. There were little sneaks of what the gameplay is like, because there was little bits of the trailer that were her running through things. You could tell it was you controlling them, and little sort of fight pieces and stuff. And I can't wait to see more of it. I'm not 100% sure that I noticed all of the dates that came up with things, but I didn't see a date pop up on that. If there was one, you'll have seen it behind me. But I don't know. I feel like that game, if it hasn't said 2024 behind me, I feel like it's going to be a 2025 game, that. And I'd rather it be a 2025 game and be bob on than 2024 and feel a little bit rushed because they're kind of under the cosh for some games. But I feel like if of all of the games that they're sort of punting at the moment, I feel like Fable might be the one that's furthest off. And that's perfectly fine. I'm just super happy that it's super happy that they're showing that much of it to us and showing us some of the characters that are in there and that vibe. I mean, I'm just delighted with that. Absolutely superb. I will say this before I go any further. If I was to give a score to the Xbox showcase, I would I thought it was an absolute thumper. I thought it was great. Is it the best one they've ever done? Probably not, but I would give it an easy 9 out of 10, that showcase. It was superb. And the only reason I didn't give it a 10 out of 10 was there was just maybe a little sucker punch that wasn't there that I would have loved. You know, like, or for the Xbox core fan base to sort of go, oh, you know, like, I don't know, maybe, well, something to do with Gears might have given us that, or, you know, just something like that, something that just knocks you off your feet a little bit, like, oh fuck yeah, that's coming. And that could have been, it might not even have been something new. It might have been something like maybe a remastered or remade Gears trilogy or something like that. Just something that was totally out of the blue, and you go, oh fuck yeah, I'll take a bit of that action. And it just felt like there was that one little right hook that just wasn't there to knock you off your feet. But other than that, it was superb. The amount of content in it was fantastic. Anyway, let's crack on still. In fact, my favourite game of the whole thing isn't actually an Xbox game, but that's a personal opinion thing. And obviously Starfield was a big singer here, but we'll come to that in a minute. Next up was South of Midnight by Compulsion Games. Now this was a quirky one actually, because we still don't know quite what it is, but it seems to be set in the sort of, well, it's not a real world. It seems, because it's got these sort of ghostly type creatures, I guess you could call them, and dead creatures, I guess, because you have this character playing the guitar at the beginning, and he's almost like a skeleton, and he's playing away, and he's like, the graphics on it was amazing. And then this woman walks up to him, and this kind of was like, whoa, okay, what's going on here? Because she was like, I don't know, maybe half the size of this thing, or even smaller. So he was huge in comparison to her. So clearly a mythical type creature or ghostly creature of some description, and she seems to know who this character is, and she's looking for a monster of some description, and then the monster, he won't tell her, but then somewhere behind her she can hear the monster coming out of the water, and she's like, here we go, and she starts weaving some kind of magic out of her hands and turns around to have this fight. So I mean, it's got me super interested as to what that game is. So I'll absolutely be keeping an eye out for that. So that was an absolute winner from the off. I loved the tone and the vibe of that deep South America sort of, well, it was kind of probably more New Orleans type thing, I think, more than anything else. Absolutely loved the vibe of it. Superb. So I can't wait to see more of that. South of Midnight by Compulsion Games. Compulsion Games are the ones that did the, I'm going to forget the name of it now. Oh, God damn it. It was the We Happy Few. Which was kind of I played a bit of it. I played it for a while, but it didn't hold me for as long as I wanted it to. And I think We Happy Few had, if someone can correct me, but I feel like We Happy Few was started before they became an Xbox studio, and then they bought them over sort of partway through that maybe, and We Happy Few became an Xbox exclusive at some point. So now they've got all the extra money behind them, it looks like this certainly looked to me a lot better than We Happy Few looked. So yeah, I mean, I think We Happy Few was a big success, to be fair to it, but this looks more up my street, without any shadow of a doubt. I just hope it's a game that doesn't have, We Happy Few had all that stuff in it where you had to make sure you ate and make sure you drank and make sure I think you could turn bits of it off, but it was all kind of that sort of thing. And I kind of lost interest at some point. I think I played early access on it when it first came out. But this, yeah. So South of Midnight looks fantastic. We're looking out for more of that. Now here's a biggie, people, and this came right out the blue to everybody. I mean, I don't know anyone that tipped this. I know we knew that Ubisoft were making a Star Wars game. That was the only thing we knew, I think, and that it was an open world Star Wars game. And then here it came, just boom, have a bit of this, and they just gave us the greatest trailer for Star Wars Outlaws, and it was the first time we'd seen the name Outlaws on the end of Star Wars as well, and it just looked superb. Now I have, hopefully I've got two. Well, I have, because I've downloaded both of them. I've got two. I've got the trailer they showed at the trailer they showed at the event itself, at the Xbox event, and then the day after they said at the event that there would be more. They would show off gameplay footage the following day on the Ubisoft event. And sure enough, I didn't watch the Ubisoft event. I just went and looked at that particular trailer afterwards. But wow, looks really good. I mean, here's the thing, right? So I'm going to talk a bit more about this one than probably the rest on the list, apart from Starfield and a couple of others. But this was my favourite showing of the whole thing. And I'm hoping it really lives up to what we're seeing. And even the extended stuff that I looked at the following day and watched the following day just made it feel even better to me. I mean, that was like, fucking hell, I was excited when I saw the first one. This has just made me even more excited. I mean, it's brilliant. It's got all the it's like the first time that I know of where we're playing a Star Wars game as a sort of lovable rogue character, a Han Solo type character, and it's a female character. Looks a great part. Looks like the voice actress sounds great. The actual character that she's playing looks great. She's got the little pet with her and stuff. So I mean, it's got similarities to the Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, but I can feel its own vibe. Like, you know, I didn't feel like I was watching Jedi Survivor, just someone running around not with a lightsaber. It didn't feel like that. It did feel like its own thing. And for me, it actually felt even more soaked in Star Wars than Jedi Survivor does, because there was all sorts of just scenes. Like, there wasn't a scene that wasn't interesting, and every scene was rammed with like just types of ships that you would see in that universe and you've seen in those films, and characters and things wandering around and creatures. I mean, it just felt busy with everything Star Wars. It just felt like you were in there. And the first trailer, I mean, it was just superb, and it just got your blood bubbling. And then the following day, when we got the footage of it seemed to be showing a particular level, a mission, where she starts off and she tells. I'm pretty sure the first thing she does is tell the little creature to go and distract somebody. The first thing she does is say to the creature, "Are you ready?" And it says, "Yeah." And then first enemy is backs to her, so she takes him down with stealth. So love that. Love the fact you can take enemies down with stealth. Fantastic. I love games where you've got that option. I always love that option if I've got it. And then she commands the creature to go and do something. She goes, "Go and hit that switch," or something, or so you can tell this little sidekick you've got. It's not a dog, but it's like a little like creature like that. It was more lizardy looking though. Cute. To go and do something to help her. Then I think it was to click a switch that moved a box that she could then hide behind and climb on, and then the thing moved and took her across the room over the enemies and stuff. So it seems to be different ways maybe to get through rooms. Might have been the only way through the room, I don't know. But then eventually she gets seen, it all kicks off, there's battle, she's using her blaster, which looks very Han Solo like. All these enemies coming at her. Interestingly, halfway through the fight, I mean, there was enemies there was an enemy with a shield, and she seemed to have to do something very specific to blast her way through that shield. So that's something to think about. There will be different enemies you've got to get around. There was loads of enemies coming out of different directions, and then eventually she runs off and she has a grapple hook which she turfs out, swings down onto the sand outside, so she gets out the room she's in, because the room that she's actually in has got like a spaceship in the middle and stuff. So she gets through that room, swings down onto the sand, and then she nicks a speeder, one of the speeder bikes. And then you end up in this big speeder chase, and everything seems okay, and then the baddies come at you with their speeders. And so you're having this speeder chase, they're shooting at you, and then eventually she goes into some kind of slow-mo thing where she's then shooting back, and it kind of slows down for you to take aim and stuff. Whether or not that's limited, I don't know. But that's the only way we saw her shoot, was it slowing down to shoot the two bikes. And it was just, I mean, the whole thing. And then she ends up in this town. So she gets the enemies out of the way, ends up in this town, goes into this meeting, which is all kind of cutscene story stuff. And and one of the people in the room turns out to be Empire. So that becomes, I think, and that so basically they want there's sort of a standoff, and then the blasters go off, and she makes a run for it, makes it to her ship, and takes off, and basically looks like once you're in that ship, you are controlling that ship, flying it from ground to space, and then when you're in space, she ends up in a dogfight. They come after her in ships, and then you're actually flying the ship, shooting them. I mean, the whole thing was just like, fuck yes! This is the Star Wars game we've been waiting for, I think. Because it's actually that element that's missing from Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order. There's no... You basically like go to that planet and do all this stuff on the planet. It doesn't make it a bad game, so don't get me wrong. I love Jedi Fallen Order. I'm just waiting for Jedi Survivor to get some patches before I continue with it, because it was just so awfully frame ratedly broken. But it was very like fly to that planet without you doing anything. It just does it almost like a loading screen. You can wonder about the ship while you're doing it, but you're just going from A to B, land on another planet, do your stuff. This seems to be like, I'm going to fly out into space and I'm going to dogfight, and then I'm going to go to hyperspace, and that's what she does. She fights them, and then she kicks into hyperspace and flies off to the next planet, and then, or the next meet point. It looked like another planet though. And I mean, that's just everything I've ever wanted in a Star Wars game, or any space game for that matter. I want to be able to get in a ship and be in a universe that's as fun as Star Wars and be able to do that shit. And this is why No Man's Sky never worked for me. Starfield, I don't think is going to work for me personally, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it looks superb. It does look superb. Don't get me wrong. Don't think I'm going to down it, because I'm not. But for me personally, I want to be able to jump in my ship and fly and go places and go down and battle people and just live in that Star Wars universe, where it is a fun one though, with loads of different creatures and aliens and loads of different missions to do. And I mean, you want to feel like a Han Solo that can just go out and in the universe and just do stuff. Well, galaxy. And it was, I'm honest to God that I was excited during the showcase, and then the following day when I saw that gameplay trailer, I was like, oh yeah. And I just hope that Ubisoft really deliver the sort of game that we look like we're looking at, because we've been down this road before years back. If you'll remember when we saw the Watch Dogs trailer, and it looked unbelievable, and then the closer we got to when it was actually coming out, it looked worse and worse. And the reason was that the first thing they showed us was on a high-end massive PC, and it looked incredible. And then by the time we got it, I mean, it was still an okay game, but it didn't look anything like what we've been shown. But I wouldn't mind this game, not quite looking quite as shiny as that, but I mean, I think it can, and I hope it will. But if they can give me that universe to run around in, and it looks as solid as I don't know, any other game that we play these days that runs on the new gen, I'm going to be super delighted with that game. If they can come out and just keep every mission interesting, that's the key for me. I mean, the only thing that kind of concerns me is that they said it's an open world Star Wars game, but I don't know what open world means, because does that mean the planet where we're doing the speeders chases on is an open world? What happens when I fly to space and fly to another planet? Is that an open world? I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know what open world means if you can go to other planets. I'd rather it be not an open world, but an open galaxy where I can do certain things on planets, and there are areas that I can look around and discover and have my chases and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of open areas rather than open world. And then be able to fly to other planets. So similar to the Jedi games, but have that ability to fly out into space and dogfight and go to light speed when you want to, and go to honestly looks amazing. So I'm really, really, really stoked for that game. We're on 40 minutes already, people. Oof. We're not going to talk this long about all the games though. This was my favourite out of all of them. You're my favourite. But yeah, can't wait for it, people. I did have a bunch of notes down about it. I wonder if I covered them all without looking. The character's called Kay. First name and last name, not sure. I think it's probably last. Stealthy takedowns we talked about. Climbing. Well, yeah, I did talk about it because the little creature moved the box, climbed onto it, and it moved her across the room. Commanding your side character, shielded enemies, speeder chases, grapple hook, flying to space dogfighting, hyperspace. Yeah, I covered it all. Covered it all without looking at my notes, people. That's how excited I am. This is when I know a game has caught my interest, because I can nearly always talk about it without referring to notes. and not really miss anything. It's the ones that, and this is always interesting to me, like, I did actually watch all the trailers again, just in the run-up to having to record this. And just to refresh my memory on some of it. And obviously to download the clips to put behind me. But it is interesting how much I remember. To be honest, I did remember most of the games and ish what they were about. But there were a few I was like, what was that again? And then I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, yeah. Didn't mean I wasn't interested in it as such, but it just meant that whatever had happened at that trailer didn't stick with me as hard as this Star Wars one did. Anyway, super excited about that. So, next up was 33 Immortals, which is a 33-player co-op roguelike. Sort of top-down ARPG style. It's got a beautiful art style to it. 33-player co-op, and that number is very specific. So I feel like maybe they sort of tested a lot of different... Well, maybe not. Maybe there is a reason it's 33 that's story-based. But I feel like it's probably like, how far can we push it? And that's the number we're going to stick with to know that it's okay. So 33, 33 players that can all fight together, fight off hordes together, fight massive bosses. I mean, a great idea and a great concept. It looked really, really, really cool. Hordes, bosses. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I took from it. Is it going to be my kind of thing? Probably not. I mean, it's I've never played Hades yet, which is that sort of roguelike thing. It's a similar vibe to that, I think, by the looking at it. But you've got this 33-player co-op thing going on. So I think it was a great show. And I think there'll be a lot of people interested in it, especially those that love playing with other people. Thank you. It is so hot in here. It's 28.5. It's getting worse, people. Every time this happens, I'm going to prove it to you. Look. 28.5 degrees. It's supposed to get cooler at night, not hotter. It's because of all these lights, people. Oh, it's getting a little bit hot under it. See the things I do for you. The things I do for you. Eh? Send me the love, people. I do it because I love you. Right. Next up was Sea of Thieves, The Legend of Monkey Island. Now here's the thing. Sea of Thieves, I mean, I've never got into it. And I will give Sea of Thieves its massive due, though, because when that game first came out, and I might have talked about this before, but when that game first came out, I was like, that's never going to last, that thing. It doesn't look like it's got anywhere near enough in it to keep people interested, and it didn't blow my mind when I looked at the graphic style and stuff. But the more time's gone on, and the more they've filled that world, and the more cool stuff they've done with it, and they've kept pumping it full of content, and they've kept the players engaged, and people love it. They've got a massive audience for that game. And then they come along and they do the Pirates of the Caribbean DLC, and now they're coming along and they're doing the Tales of Monkey Island. Is that Legend of Monkey Island, DLC. And Legend of Monkey Island is a massive franchise in itself. And I think that everything they've done with that game is fantastic. And I proper tip my hat to the people that made that game, because it feels like they probably were forced to kind of push it out a little bit earlier than they probably wanted to. But they thought, let's just start getting people engaged in the game. And not that there was anything broken with it, per se, but I've never played it, so I can't say one way or the other. I think content-wise, it was probably lacking at the beginning. And I think that was just because they were in some sort of timescale to at least get something out. But they have worked their asses off to fill that game and make it with content and make it successful and keep making awesome, massive DLCs for it. And brilliant. I love it when devs do that. And I love it even more. Not that it was the case with this, but even more when it's a massive failure at the beginning and they manage to turn it around in a huge way. I mean, I think No Man's Sky is probably the primest example of that. It just didn't capture people the way that they wanted to at the beginning. And that game, I think last year won game of the something of the year, game of the something or other. Out of the blue, it was like, what was that? I didn't even know it was. I mean, they're still pummeling that full of content, but that game is nothing like it was at the beginning of its life, you know. But anyway, Sea of Thieves, props to them, people, props to them. Next up was Flight Sim 2024. Now, here's the thing, and I've talked about Flight Simulator before, but Flight Sim 2024 is a brand new game. This isn't an update to the existing game. Phil Spencer said it's a brand new aviator game, Flight Simulator game. Did I say Flight Sim? It's Flight Simulator 2024, Steve. Don't cut down the name. This actually caught my attention. I don't do flight simulators at all, right? Because I just think, why would I get in a plane and just fly around? Like, I don't feel like it's going to be exciting. This game, however, the entire trailer was like, now you've got jobs to do in your aerial vehicle of choice, right? So you can be in a helicopter, you can be in a plane, you can be in a glider, you can be in all sorts of different things. Loads of different types of planes, loads of different type of helicopters. You can be rescuing people from the sea. You can be rescuing. I jotted some of them down. They had helping with forest fires. You know, picking up the water and dragging the water over the forests. They had helicopter rescues, they had cargo transport off an oil rig, they had air ambulance services, they had crop spraying, aerial construction, literally like you were flying a helicopter and you had construction stuff dangling off the bottom of it to build towers and stuff. They had remote cargo operations. They had air racing as well, so you can race people. And it looked fucking amazing. So I was super, super impressed with it. I mean, I don't do flight simulators, but I might be super, super keen to give that a try. Just buy Game Pass for a month at some point and just at least give it a go. Because at least, like, I feel like I'm not just getting in a plane and going from A to B. I'm getting in this helicopter or plane or whatever to go and do specific jobs and tasks and not quests, maybe might be a strong word, but you know, jobs to do, you know. So I really, really, really was impressed with it, and it looked as superb as the other flight simulator that was a massive hit for them anyway, that came over from PC to Xbox. So yeah, that really surprised me, I have to say. Next up was Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. It's coming in 2024. As is Flight Simulator 2024, just as a shock bit of news. The clue is in the name, people. So yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not actually excited for Hellblade 2, and it's not because there was anything wrong with Hellblade 1. I just feel like this is going to be a bigger, badder ass version of it, with more story to tell, and I understand that that's got a purpose, that game, about mental health and stuff like that. I understand that, and I will probably play it, but I'm just not excited for it. I'm not like, oh my god, I can't wait for Hellblade 2 to come out. That's not how I feel about that game at all. I feel like I'll go, oh cool, Hellblade 2's out, I'll maybe give that a go at some point when I buy Game Pass for a month or whatever. So, you know, the whole trailer was literally all seemed to be more. I don't remember any real gameplay in it. I think it was all just her wandering around, the voices talking to her. The first part of the trailer was just my worst nightmare. Like, I can't be doing with being in an enclosed space like that. Bloody claustrophobic. Oh no, people. Stop it. But I mean, it looked fantastic visually. The acting from the woman doing the character was superb yet again. I'm just curious to see if that game's going to bring anything that the first game didn't, whether it's going to be a more in-depth battle system, or whether there's going to be more to that battle system, or whether it's just going to be the same again with more story, which won't be a bad thing, I guess. People will just want to play it through, but I had no real inkling to play Senua's Sacrifice again after I played it. It was like, I've done it and that's fine. The only thing that niggled at me was that I'd missed a couple of the things you had to find, and otherwise I would have had a sort of 100% run or whatever it was. But yeah, it's going to be a great game. Those people that loved the first one will love the second one, I'm sure, and there won't be anything wrong with it. And I'll play it and I'll probably enjoy it, but I'm not super excited for it. But it was good for them to show it off, and it's good to know that it's coming in 2024. Persona 3 Reload is coming, which is a remake of Persona 3, basically, I think. I don't think they're remaking it in the way that they're going to change anything about it. I think they're just making Persona 3 again in a new engine, so you can play that game again and it looks super sexy, so it's kind of thing. They have said that none of the stuff that came after the original Persona 3 will be in it. So none of the can't say it, why do I want to say DL3? None of the DLC will be in it, and that sort of extra content, which a lot of folk are really annoyed about, because they wanted that sort of definitive way to play Persona 3. So, I don't know, maybe they'll do it as a DLC later on, but it's not in the initial release. So it could just be their way of making a bit more money further down the road. Once they've launched that, they'll go, well, we decided to remake the DLCs as well, and you can get all that later on. So fair enough, if they need to sort of cream the monies a little bit for making it. Costs a lot to make these games these days, I suppose. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth was up next. Like a Dragons have all been set in Japan as far as I know. This one was quite a funny trailer, to be fair. The main character wakes up on a beach and he's completely naked, and the whole sort of, well, it wasn't a cut, I suppose it is a cut scene, but it was all in engine. But the whole scene was like that thing from Austin Powers where his man bits, every time it was sort of took a shot of him, his man bits were covered like by a wine bottle or a banana or something was always kind of in the way of that. Well, they did get a few butt shots, people, to be fair. But yeah, the whole thing was just kind of that, and then him not noticing that he didn't have it, because he wakes up and he's kind of like, where the hell am I? And that, and everyone kind of gradually starts spotting he's got no shorts on and he's completely naked, until someone points it out to him and he freaks out. But yeah, I mean, it looked funny trailer. I know that the Like a Dragon thing, they are called Like a Dragon now, aren't they? They're not actually called Yakuza anymore, are they? It's just called Like a Dragon, I think. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. So I think they're not called Yakuza now, they're called Like a Dragon. And they're also turn-based games rather than the action-orientated games from before. So, I don't know, I might maybe give it a go at some point in the future, but I tried to play Judgment and that just wasn't for me. But my boy Aaron, he loves the Yakuza games. He absolutely adores them, thinks they're fantastic. Anyway, it was good to see it coming. It'll be interesting to see how that character pans out in I think it was LA he wakes up in. Fallout 76 was up next. Fallout 76 Road to Atlantic City. A few folk have kind of scoffed at the fact that it's like, why would you? Who asked for Atlantic City? Who wants to see a burned up Atlantic City? I've never been to Atlantic City. I'm sure it's a fine place with fine people. But I did hear a few podcasters saying, why? Who the hell asked for Atlantic City? Fallout 76 is never going to be for me. Again, I don't know if that game ever fixed itself to a point where it managed to obtain a huge audience, or whether it's just kind of ticking away nicely, so we'll just keep it ticking away nicely. It's never going to do anything grandiose, but we stuck with it and we made some people happy. But it's good to see them still filling it with content. It's good to see there's still a group of players that want to play there, community. But it's never going to be for me, but it was good to see some more getting added for those people that love it. Path of the Goddess was up after that. It's a Capcom game. This was interesting, actually. It looked very the vibe was kind of Sekiro-ish, but the fighting and stuff, although it was swordplay and what have you, it's sort of a magical Japan, I think it says in the actual trailer, sort of that sort of thing going on. And you seem to be, there are bosses, there are groups of enemies, the guys wandering around with what looks like a samurai sword. You've got all that sort of fighting to do. It looks super cool. Capcom are on a massive high at the minute. They don't seem to be able to do anything wrong at the moment. Everything they release, from every remake they're doing to every game they're doing, seems to be just hitting a home run every time. So hopefully Path of the Goddess will do the same thing. Definitely there was enough in that trailer for me to think I'll give that a go at some point. But for me, certainly, and this is only a personal thing, I don't think it's going to be something I'll be grabbing on day one or anything like that, but I think if I saw it 2 years after it released and I'd be like seeing it for 20 quid or something, I'd be going, yeah, it's time to give that a go. Or if it was on Game Pass or something. But yeah, I was super impressed with it though. It did look really cool, and I was thinking, it'd be quite cool to try that out. It looks pretty magical place, people, which is what it was aiming at, I guess. Forza Motorsport was up after that, and that is coming out in on the 10th of October this very year, 2023, people. I'll get Forza Motorsport is by far the most grandiose and best looking game out there, and from what everyone says, the best driving experience for any racing game at the moment. And they just hit a home run every time they make a Forza game. Forza Horizon, Forza Motorsport, they both just knock it out of the park. Again, I don't really play racing games. I will every now and then. I think the last time I played a racing game, I was at a sort of event and they had loads of Xboxes with Forza on it or some racing game on it, and I just gave it a go while I was having a little sip of a beer, people. As you do when you go to these things. But it does look amazing. The amount of sort of sort of changes and tweaks you can do to your car. And I think you can make all your own cars and stuff as well. Well, not make them yourself, but sort of make them your own design, put your own design and stamp on them and stuff like that. But it has so many like branded cars in that game and stuff. It just looks incredible. It looks so in depth and realistic now. It's just incredible. And I think the last one was certainly one of the first games that was sort of punted at 60 FPS for proper 4K. I don't know, somebody can correct me. I feel like maybe there might be 120 FPS mode on it, but someone can correct me. But it was definitely 60 FPS proper 4K, that original, well, the Forza game before this. So yeah, Forza Motorsport, for those racing fans among you, 10th of October. Elder Scrolls Online Necrom is finally coming. I forgot to jot down the date, if there was one. I feel like it's coming this year, and I feel like it's not far away. I don't know, I feel like June or July was in my head, but anyway. Because I remember not so long ago, I posted up me getting into Elder Scrolls Online for the first time proper. And I was really enjoying it, but then other things came along and just everything I was playing was an RPG and something had to give, and that was one of them. But I was having a really good time with it, and I think you guys were enjoying watching it as well. So I don't know, maybe I'll get back to it. But my 3-month membership for Gold ran out, and you can only play the game if you've got Gold. So I've kind of left it be for now. But ESO Necrom looks just like all the other DLCs they've done for it. It looks superb. The action looks fun. The new things, the new areas they've added in look fun. You've got a new story to do and quests to do, and that is like one of the greatest success stories I've ever seen. Because again, when Elder Scrolls Online first launched, I was like, oh, I have no interest in that whatsoever. But they have kept pummeling that with content over and over again, and all the content has done nothing but make it better and better and better. Superb MMO. It's got to be one of the best MMOs out there for me, I think, having played what I played and just being in that world and what have you. Overwatch 2 was shown off after that for more expansion, I think. I'm never going to be an Overwatch person. You know, I think I read a list of the biggest selling games of all time, and I'm sure Overwatch was on it. The original Overwatch, that is. And I was like, how the hell did that get on there with, like, in the period of time that's gone by? Like, unbelievable. So I'm not going to talk too much about that, but Overwatch 2 was shown off. Starfield was next up for its... Well, there was the main Xbox showcase, and then right at the very end, they did an extended Starfield part, but we're just going to talk about it now, because they showed Starfield clip at this point, and then they did an extended bit at the end. Starfield is coming on September 6th, 2023. Now, for me, will we talk about Starfield now, or will we do it at the end? Yeah, we'll do it at the end. So anyway, Starfield's coming on September 6th, 2023. There was a game called Juicent, which seemed to be nothing but loads of climbing. Then there was a game called Still Wakes the Deep, which actually, I haven't downloaded any trailer footage of this one because I thought I'm not going to talk about it too much. But it did, just off the top of my head, I remember, and I didn't watch the trailer again, I've just seen it the once. I felt like, that might be a horror-y type vibe that I might get into that. So I might get my interest back into Still Wakes the Deep. I think it might be more of an indie dev, as was the Juicent one, or Juicent one, whatever it is. Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, which is the new DLC for Cyberpunk 2077, comes out on the 26th of the 9th, 23, this very year. Keanu is back as Johnny Silverhand. Now, I've not played Cyberpunk 2077. mainly because it's kind of a world that doesn't interest me. I'm not a futuristic type person most of the time. I tend to like things that are in the past, people. I like swords and bows and all sorts of magical type shit. However, I have to say that Cyberpunk 2077 tends to be raising my interest. And I keep seeing it for 20 quid now as well. I'm thinking there's getting close to a point here where I'm going to have to try this out. And the quality of the gameplay now is got to a point where it almost feels like it's been written again, because it's so stable from what people are saying. The quality of graphics has just got nothing but better and better. They've just got to a really happy place with Cyberpunk 2077. So I feel like I'm getting to a place where I might well try that game out. But by the time I play it, there'll be so much DLC and stuff attached to it that I'll just have so much to do. But again, I'll wait until I see it again for 20 quid or whatever, and I'll get it at that point. I'm sure the DLCs won't be included for 20 quid, but you know what I mean. But yeah, it was great to see yet more Keanu Reeves coming to Cyberpunk 2077. Because sometimes, with some celebrities, you feel like they just sort of cash in for a quick buck, and then you never see them again in that world or place. But I love the fact that Keanu's clearly interested in it himself. He doesn't need the money to be doing video games. So he clearly does stuff that's of interest to him. And I feel like he's keeping involved with that world because he loves the character and he wants to do more, and he's loving working in the video game industry, which I think is great. He did an interview with... I've forgotten the girl's name now. But she was at IGN, but I think she doesn't work there now because she was interviewing him. It's Tia somebody. Tia Ramini, is it? Tia Ramini, I think, or something like that. Her name is. She was interviewing him in the extended showcase, and she did a cracking interview with him, and she was very, very good in everything she did in that extended showcase. To be fair, I was very impressed. Not that she needs my blessing, people. Anyway, but she was. The thing is, I've only ever seen her in Game Scoop. She used to be in the Game Scoop podcast with Damon Hatfield in IGN and some other people. That's the only place I'd ever seen her. So, and I wondered when I was watching Game Scoop, because I haven't watched it for ages, I wonder where she'd gone. And then it must be that she's moved to Pastures New, and maybe that is Xbox, or she's working independently. But she was doing the extended showcase interviews and that sort of stuff and presenting things. Yeah, very, very cool. But it was a really great interview with Keanu, and he seemed really keen on all of it still. Where are we, people? Cyberpunk. There was a game called Cities shown off, which is never going to be my thing. I've not downloaded any footage of that, but it's a sim game where you can create your own cities and stuff. It did look very cool, but it's never something I'm going to play. And then there was a game called Metaphor shown off, which comes out in 2024. It's from the makers of Persona, Atlas. It does look very, very... I'm actually forgetting a little bit about it, but I feel like it was very anime orientated. The menu screens that were popping up in the gameplay type side were very Persona feeling. So if you love that Persona vibe and you love that whole Japanese type of way of making those games, then this is going to be right up your alley. I know Aaron Brew's not the biggest... he likes some of the games on Xbox, like he was a big Halo fan back in the day and all that, but he's very much a PlayStation person now. He loves his JRPGs and all that side of it on the PlayStation side. But he was watching the showcase, we were texting each other while it was happening, and that got his ear. He was like, oh, his ears pricked up at that. He was like, oh yeah, this is proper, along with the Persona 3 remake as well, right up his alley. Whether or not those couple of things were exclusive, I'm not sure, but bloody hell, we're on the hour mark, people. I've not even got to Starfield yet. But there you are, yes, new game called Metaphor from Atlas, the makers of Persona. Towerborn was another game shown off, which is made by the Banner Saga makers, which this actually didn't twig with me as interesting at all until I watched the extended gameplay. Now, I haven't shown you the extended gameplay stuff behind me because it was kind of one of those videos where it was a mix of them talking and a bit of video and them talking as developers, isn't it? So I didn't put that in, but I put the original trailer in, which is from the Xbox showcase itself. And it didn't grab my interest at all at the showcase itself, but when I heard them talking about it and how in depth it was, and I was super impressed with it in the extended side. So I can highly recommend if you go, and I haven't actually finished watching the extended showcase yet. There's loads more for me to see in it. I've only watched the first maybe, I don't know, half an hour or something. But the Towerborn devs talking about the very, very small studio, the guys that are making it, but that what they were showing off in that and how they were explaining it, I was like, oh, this is right up my street, proper RPG style. But the only thing that kind of concerns me a little bit is it seems to be, I can't tell from some of the clips, but it does seem to be a side-scrolling game. Like, so there is no going in and out of the camera, it's just side to side. But in some of the battle stuff, it sort of seemed like it almost did go in a little bit, but I don't think it does. I think it is side to side. And they said that it's a whole rich open world for you to explore. It's like, well, how open can a side to side be? You know, like, so that'll be interesting to discover what that actually means. But it did seem to be in the extended showcase, there was talking about just how much looting stuff is in there, crafting stuff is in there, all this stuff you can level up to, and it did look really interesting. So I can highly recommend going and checking out that extended showcase in full, actually. But certainly look out the Towerborn bit if you're into your RPGs, because it did grab my attention in there rather than the main Xbox one. Next up was a Clockwork Revolutions. This looks really good, people. In Exile make this, another Xbox studio. I think the Towerborn game, by the way, is an exclusive to Xbox. I think someone can correct me on that, but I do get the impression the reason they got to be able to make this game is because they had Xbox's money behind them. So there's another interesting one for Towerborn. Clockwork Revolution in Exile are making that one. It's got a very Bioshock feel to it. It did feel like a bit. I didn't feel like I was watching Bioshock, is what I'm trying to say. But I can see why people are comparing it to Bioshock Infinite, I should say, rather than the Bioshock Under the Water. Bioshock Infinite was up in the clouds and all that. It did have a taste of that to it, but more so, it was more a taste of steampunk. Because the more I watched the clip and the gameplay, the more I didn't feel like I was watching Bioshock. I felt like I was watching its own thing. So but it looks superb, and it seemed to have this sort of the sort of twist to it seemed to be, yes, you've got all your first person shootery type stuff in this steampunk type world, and you've got, you know, it's a very adult type world as well. It's not a kids game by any means by the looks of it, but it seems to be all these sort of electrical type weapons and power weapons and all sorts of stuff going on, and there seems to be this ability to flip time in an area or something, or rebuild something. I think the whole clockwork thing is, though, that you can twist time a little bit, because there's a section where she brings down a bridge with a power to take the enemies out and then lifts the bridge back up from the floor and puts it back together again. It was really cool. I mean, the more I watched it, and the few times that I've now watched that trailer, the second time I watched it, I was nothing had gone from it. It was still like, wow, this looks great. I think this is going to be fantastic. So that is, you know, that looks really cool, and that is. He didn't have a date with it, I don't think. No, it didn't. Yeah, there was also, I made a note here where at some point in the video she uses a power move she pushes an enemy into a fan, like a giant fan spinning, like just outside on a rail or something, and she pushes the enemy and it flies back into this fan and just gets shredded. So there seemed to be some very cool stuff going on with the whole mechanics of fighting, the world itself, the amount of creatures, the amount of machines, I mean, it just looks very, very cool, people. If you haven't checked it out, Clockwork Revolution, people, by In Exile. So go and look out that, people. Well, I mean, you'll have seen the footage behind me, but you can go and watch it with the sound up if you've not seen it before. What did we have after that, people? Well, that was pretty much it, apart from they then showed off a 1 terabyte Xbox Series S in black. Carbon Black, people, for $359, and it's really the 1 terabyte bit, because the original S, which is the white one, has only got 500 meg, and a lot of people have been complaining that there just isn't anywhere near enough room to be storing all the games of the size that they are. So there is now a 1 terabyte Carbon Black Series S at $359. I'm sure the poundage is probably similar to that. And it was great to see that, and I think Phil has done that because he wants people to know that they're even though they go on about all this cloud gaming stuff, they still know the core of their Xbox experience is the console players, and they want to make sure that they keep investing in that. So it was really cool to see that come out. I think that was available straight away. And then we went on to the deep dive of Starfield, people. So we shall finally talk about Starfield. And for me, I've watched both the... Oh yeah, it was all on the same night. Yeah, so they had the trailer in the middle that said that what the date was, which was in October. And then at the very end of the showcase there, and finally, I thought it was going to be... Sorry, I'm just going to... Ooh, there it is, people. My flowing locks. Yeah, it seemed to... I can't remember what I was going to say now. I've lost my train of thought, people. Anyway, yeah, we had the trailer in the middle. We had the big extended version at the end. And for me, the only problem I have with this game is, and look, it looks amazing, right? There's this 1,000 planets to visit, right? I've got a lot of questions about that, but it seems to be that there's a gazillion planets, or 1,000 as it happens, and then there's some core planets and places that are always the same, and they always have that story mechanic going on that you can follow the campaign, right? However, the 1,000 planets that are out there, the ones that you can just go off, explore and be in that world, they are procedurally generated, right? So what that means is it's the same as No Man's Sky are doing, basically, which means I think they do the same thing, but that means that when you discover a planet, your experience of that planet can be completely different to somebody else's. It'll have different people on it, different animals on it, different creatures, different environment, and that is quite cool. Actually, it means that everyone's experience of that universe is going to be a bit different, right? However, what I was thinking was, how does that work if I go to a planet and I do 20% of what needs done on that planet and fly away and go somewhere else, got a different planet which is procedurally generated? I'm assuming whatever they procedurally generated in the planet that I discovered before is going to be saved as I found it and not procedurally generate again. Because that would make no sense. I mean, you can never go... I mean, I'd be very, very curious to see just how that all works and what have you. We already know that you can't get in your ship and fly from the planet to space. You don't control that like you do in No Man's Sky, or you do indeed in the Star Wars one by the looks of it. You get in the ship and you say, go here, and you end up in space where you can fly about, but you don't actually drive your ship from the ground to space. Once you get into space, you can then fly your ship about. And then, I suspect, just highlight where you want to go and warp there or whatever. The level of depth to this game looks incredible. Like how you can construct your own ships, how you can create a crew for your ship so you're not traveling alone, which I thought was a great idea, because you've got a universe that big, you want to have other characters around you all the time that are at least keeping it slightly interesting. I hope they're giving a lot of conversation to those characters, because the last thing you want to be doing is flying around a universe and those guys keep saying the same thing over and over and over again. So that's something I'll be interested to see more of. You can change your crew though, by the looks of it, so you can mix it up a bit. I think there's a gazillion people you can invite onto your crew and make it a very unique crew to you. They do have energy weapons, they do have bullet weapons, they do have a multitude of different things. The skill tree looks like there's so many different ways you can play the game. You can do it stealthily, you can give full on action. Yeah, there seems to be perks that you can invest in right at the beginning, which says I'm going to be a jetpack guy, I'm going to be a stealth guy, or whatever. And you can heavily invest in those areas and play the game however you want. And everything about this game sings amazing, right? apart from, and I will say this, they did confirm the following day, there is no 60 FPS mode for this game. It is just 30 FPS 4K on Series X, and I think it's 1080p at 30 FPS. No, 1440p at 30 FPS on the Series S. How stable that all is and how well it works and everything, I don't know. That does put me off fairly heavily because I just don't like playing 30 FPS games anymore. My eyes are so adjusted now to playing 60 FPS games that I just never seem to readjust to a 30 FPS game anymore. I just see it stick. It just feels sticky to me all the time. So I'm a bit disappointed with that, but I still think they may try and... They haven't said this. They've said that this was a design choice, which I just think is a lot of nonsense, really. It's not a design choice. You wanted to make a game that looked that rich that you decided to ignore 60 FPS. I suppose that is a choice, but you could have made a game that didn't have 4K true and had 40. You could have given us a mode that was 1440p 60, for example, on the Xbox Series X. I feel like, I'm not going to tell Todd Howard that he can do it because he's made lots of games and I haven't, but lots of other people seem to be able to make 60 FPS modes. I don't see why Starfield needs to be any different. I know it's a massive game, but you don't load that whole universe at once. You know, there must be a way of containing each area that they do, and those areas in themselves, you know. I mean, to be fair, if you look at the graphics on the characters and stuff, there's nothing major going on with that. You know, the characters didn't look any better or worse than Fallout 4 for me. Fallout 4's got a 1080p. Fallout 4's got a... Well, it's certainly got a mod that will run it at 60 FPS. I can't remember if they did an official patch. I feel like they did do an official patch at 60 FPS 1080p. And I would still play a game at 1080p for 60 FPS than a game at 4K 30. Without any shadow of a doubt. I will pick that over 4K 30 every time. Because 4K to me only looks good if you stood still. The minute you move the camera, it's like, oh Jesus, everything's just really sticky, and no, thank you. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see whether or not they give us a patch of some description later on that maybe gives us a 60 FPS at 1440p on the X or something. I hope they do. It could be a bit like Skyrim, where we don't, and we do finally get a patch when the next generation comes along, or if they do a mid-generation console like an Xbox Series X Pro or something like they did last gen, which I think is fairly doubtful, but you never know. And at which point it might be capable of doing a bit more. So I think PC has got an uncapped mode, so you can uncap it. How well that's going to play, but no idea. But you should be able to maybe get 60 FPS on a PC because you can uncap it and twiddle with all your settings in there. But anyway, we'll wait and see. Everything about this game sings that it's amazing. It's just never, in all the times they've shown it off, made the hairs on my arms stand on end like Skyrim did or other things, or Fallout 4. And it's not because they've done anything wrong. It's just that I feel like I'm going to space as someone that works for NASA, right? And they did work closely with NASA, I think, or go to NASA and try and find out a lot of how all this space stuff works. And it just feels to me that it's a little bit too real, right? So by that I mean I haven't seen an alien in any of the... I've seen creatures on planets, but I've never seen one alien, right? So that's just humans I've seen walking about. Every planet seemed to just be another planet with different shaped creatures on it, mining for materials. You've got bases that you have to infiltrate and get stuff out of. But there was no... This is why because like with Skyrim, you've got dragons and you've got ghostly creatures and caves, and you've got, even Skyrim gets at a point, you've kind of seen every enemy, but it's enemies that are interesting and caves that are like of wonder and history and richness. I mean, I saw someone say, I think it was one of the Digital Foundry guys, it might have been John Liderman, and he said, wouldn't it be really cool if you landed on a planet in Starfield and it was Skyrim? You know what I mean? You landed there and it's like, fuck me, I've landed on the planet where Skyrim is. That would be mind-blowing, right? But I don't think that's what this game is. This game is just procedurally generated planets, and there's a campaign. There is a story in the campaign, I think, where they're trying to track down a marker of some description and something weird's going on. Maybe there is aliens and this is the story of discovering those aliens. Maybe that's what it is and they don't want to show us any alien stuff because that will give away story. But for me at the moment, it just feels a little bit too real and there's not anything in it that's making me go, I can't wait to do that. I just feel like I've got, 1,000 planets. I've not even finished Fallout 4. And that's just one city. How the fuck am I going to finish 1,000 planets? Jesus Christ. But no doubt it's going to be a technical wonder. It's going to be an amazing game for a lot of people. I will play that game at some point. Am I going to play it on day one? Probably not. I think there'll be so many people playing it on YouTube. There'll be no point in me playing it on the channel anyway. But I don't know. I might change my mind near the time. But it's going to be a marvellous game. I just don't think it's for me. From what I've seen so far, and certainly not at 30 FPS, I don't think. But there's just not enough in that. There's so much they've shown us, and yet it's not made me tingle at any point. So, and again, I'm saying this, I'm stressing it really strongly. This is just a personal thing, that it's just not doing that for me. I haven't seen anything wrong with anything they've done. It looks amazing, it looks fantastic, and I think Bethesda are a fantastic studio, but for me at the moment it's just not making me tingle. But I think it's going to be massive, that game, absolutely massive. And well, it is massive, but it's going to be massive with a community of people, and I'm super excited to see what people make of it, and I'm hoping that maybe I am wrong and maybe there's more wonder in those worlds or in that universe than I think there is. But for me at the moment, there's just not anything that's popping out going, come on, you got to come into this world, this universe, and come see me, come to my planet, because, and blow my mind. So we'll see what happens with it. But the showcase itself was just brilliant. Outstanding showcase. Really, really, really good. Just 1 point away from being a major spectacle, really. I think there was just that one right punch that didn't quite happen. But outstanding. You compare it to Sony's showcase, the PlayStation showcase from 3 weeks before, it was night and day. The PlayStation one was probably a 2 out of 10. I mean, they showed off Spider-Man, right? And showed off the proper massive trailer for Spider-Man. Loads of gameplay footage, didn't give us a date. And then at the Game Awards, they announced the date. It's like, well, why did you announce the date at the Game Awards? What was the point of that? You could have still shown an extra piece of footage at the Game Awards, but show the fucking date at your own showcase. Don't save that for the Game Awards. Why? What are you doing that for? Very strange. Some very odd decisions going on at Sony at the minute, at PlayStation. I'm telling you, it's not been anywhere for me. I feel like what's happening at PlayStation at the moment is just all being ridden on the coattails of House and Trent, who were before him. And I feel like if they didn't show anything about their roadmap as to what the hell is going on with their studios at all at that showcase 4 weeks ago, and that just smells a little bit off to me. Even Naughty Dog, there seems to be very, very wobbly things happening around this Last of Us co-op game or MMO or whatever it's going to be, multiplayer game. That seems to be a bit wobbly. There doesn't seem to be any. I don't know. There just didn't seem to be anything going, wow, that's coming. Okay, great. So I don't know. I'm a little bit uneasy about PlayStation's roadmap at the moment, and I'm wondering if there's going to be some quiet years ahead for Sony, and only having sort of one big game a year or something for a bit. I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. But if you compare, and hey, listen, I know, and I'm well aware of the fact that Sony have had massive hit after hit after hit, and Xbox haven't over the last number of years. But for me, I feel like their steam is running out, because there doesn't seem like. What's the God of War studio doing now? Because there ain't a God of War 3, is there? So they've already said that was a 2-game thing. And in fact, God of War Ragnarok is probably a two-part game, really. They could have made that into 2 games. It's that big. So I don't know. It's like, I feel like there's going to be some sort of slowdown with Sony or PlayStation so far as their games go for big hitters. Because there ain't another Uncharted coming. The Last of Us seems to be wobbly with this multiplayer. Yeah, I know they've already said, Naughty Dog already said that the people that made The Last of Us Part 2 they're already on with their new game, and we don't know what that is yet, but that's got to be ages away, surely. So The Last of Us Part 3, if there ever is one, is going to be even further away, so that probably... I mean, if that's the case, I don't see us seeing The Last of Us Part 3 in this generation of life. I mean, we're not going to see that on a PS5, are we? Unless they can make it in a 3-year period or something. Or their new game is The Last of Us Part 3, of course. But I seem to get the impression it was a new IP, but that could be a wrong impression. So there you are. But so I did have a note of something else which was nothing to do with the showcase, and it was, there was something I picked up this week. There's a new AAA exclusive deal being done between Xbox and the studio that made the Gears of War games originally and Bulletstorm. Those devs have struck a deal to make a new AAA IP with Xbox. So it'll only be on Xbox. So I'm super excited about that because I've been going on recently. I played Bulletstorm Remastered, Reloaded, whatever it's called. Recently, you can buy it for about £3 or £4, and it is the best fun you'll have. If you just want to sit and play a story game with loads of shooting and fun action, you won't find a better game than Bulletstorm. And it is so un-PC as well. It is so funny. It's brilliant. Really great game. I'm surprised we never got a second one. And if we did, I've completely missed the fact, but I don't think there was. And they made Gears 1, 2 and 3 as well. So that's the sort of dark, adult, fun vibe worlds that I love. If I just want to play a game that's a ride and not a grind. So yeah, I was really excited to hear that this week. I mean, obviously it's going to be about four years off or whatever, depending on what they're doing. I'm saying new IP. It might be based on an existing IP. I might have made that bit up. But they are doing a AAA exclusive for Xbox, and it will only be on Xbox. It's not a timed exclusive. They have paid them to make them a game. They even mentioned what the budget was. I think it was something crazy like 50 million or something. 50 or 60 million. So they've got a massive budget to make this AAA game for Xbox. So they're really going for Xbox. I know they had that sucker punch with Red, yeah, you know the one I mean. I've forgotten the name of it already. Yeah, the launch of it just wasn't great. But, you know, they've come back fighting, they've come back punching with that showcase, and there's nothing but exciting stuff going on for Xbox as far as I'm concerned after that showcase. And the extended showcase, I can't wait to watch the rest of it, to be fair. So yeah, so there you are, people. There are my views, there are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the showcase, if you watched it, or what you thought of anything you've seen here and what I've talked about, if you haven't watched the showcase. But I can highly recommend going and watching it. It was a good one, and the extended stuff was actually super interesting as well. It wasn't just dragging stuff out, it was doing proper deep dives with people, interviewing Keanu Reeves, deep dives with developers, and I've still got the rest of it to watch, so I'm really excited for it. Oh, God. Yeah, there we go, people. So having the lights on, we got up to 29 degrees in my living room. Jesus Christ. The first thing I'm doing when I say goodbye is turning all the lights off in here and turning that fan on over there. Jesus Christ, it's hot, people. And I've got my hat on as well. It's a good job I've got my shorts on, people, isn't it, eh? Well, there you are, folks. If I ramble on any longer, it's been a long one, people. 1 hour and 24 minutes, that says at the moment. I think I might be 1 hour and 20 actually, because I think I started saying words a little bit after I clicked the record button on the laptop there, because the laptop's recording my voice and the camcorder's recording, well, the camcorder's recording my voice as well with the video, but the sound that I'll use for my voice will be schmelted in. The camcorder sound will be blocked, and this sound from the microphones recorded on the laptop, that'll be the sound you hear. Like lip syncing, people, eh? Flaggins up once again to you all, people. There you are. I think I've said it already. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of any of that or anything at all. Just talk to me, people. You know I love it. I always respond, people. I always do. I always get back to you eventually. It has been an honour and a privilege serving for you in this vlog of mine today, and I shall catch you all in the next one. Take it easy, folks. Bye.